In 1968, pop artist Andy Warhol debuted his first solo European exhibition at the Moderna Museet in Stockholm, Sweden. Printed in the program was what soon would be considered one of his most iconic and creepily prescient quotes: "In the future, everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes." Written like a cursed prophecy.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
It was a social experiment more than anything else. Like, obviously I wanted the clout off of it, and I was like really annoyed that Corona was getting more publicity than me.
I was looking to create a video, yes, that would go viral. Yeah.
For what purpose, though, to go viral?
I'm an artist.
Recently, J Station managed to set a new personal record for negative attention by faking his girlfriend's death.
What if we fake your death just to gain traction on the Dream Team channel?
Oh no, look at her.
So by now it's no surprise that the influencer sphere, at its worst, can be quite cancerous. Whether it's throwing wild parties during a global pandemic, banking on tragedies for those sick YouTube views, ruining the environment for the gram, risking their health for the gram, risking their lives for the gram, the advent of social media, as much as I can't live without it, has at the same time birthed an obnoxious, self-absorbed, clout-chasing flex monster. Again, of course, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful these sites have given a platform for millions of people with creative passions to share, but at the same time, I've got this infuriating fascination for how some of the worst behaviors, and in turn this insidious, fame-hungry online culture, are perpetuated, glorified, and even incentivized online. Ironically enough, even the most critical of us in the audience play a part in this, but I'll explain. It goes without saying that while the desire for attention, recognition, and fame is really nothing new, social media has changed up the game significantly. It's offered greater, easier access to a fame culture that was traditionally exclusive to an elite minority, typically those with the connections and capital for industry agents and professional PR teams. But now, for a lot of people at least, all you need is a smartphone to get noticed by thousands if you're lucky. So for this video, I thought I'd treat you guys into a hellish deep dive into the relatively recent phenomena of online clout culture, everyone's favorite, the insidious sides of social media fame and attention, and the impact these trends have on both consumer and creator. Just how far would you go for those fat stats? Fame or celebrity culture refers to our exposure and interaction with celebrities' personal lives. According to Wikipedia, it's one that's inherently tied to consumer interests, where celebrities transform their fame to become product brands. Unlike most cultures where its members have an obvious pattern of physical and social characteristics, celebrity culture doesn't hinge so much on the celebrities themselves, but rather the audience's desire for increased celebrity viewing. And why the f do we care so much about the lives of the rich and famous? It's not like we know them, and vice versa. But as a lot of you may have guessed, a lot of it boils down to escapism. We may not have the privilege to live in some $1 million sci-fi igloo, partied up in Bora Bora, or take a shit in a golden toilet, but at least for that fleeting moment when we're mindlessly flipping through a tabloid, or worse, watching e-news, we're given a glimpse of what it's like, and sort of briefly vicariously live through these people's experiences. At the same time, it's also just human nature to pay attention to those at the top of the food chain, so to speak, since we've evolved in a society where it pays off to do so. It can generally benefit one to keep in touch with what higher status individuals are up to, since this helps them more effectively become one, or at the very least, may teach them to better navigate the social scene. These very wealthy and beloved people seem to be having it great, so they must be doing something, right? Or so you think? Following or even worshipping celebrities is pretty much just a byproduct of this ingrained social tendency. But keep in mind it can also work the other way around. Improving our awareness of the general social scene can also be done by sticking our noses in the wrongdoings and misbehavior of society's most notable figures. Of course, we can also attribute this to our natural desire for societal intrigue, drama, and gossip. Sharing the latest celebrity updates, good or bad, can be a popular social bonding activity, one that can be traced back to the historical practice of village gossip. So why am I giving a rundown on all of this? Well, it's because social media has not only helped fuel the fires of celebrity culture by now giving us even greater access to everyday lives of stars, but it's also formed a unique fame culture of its own. Just as our fascination for the elite of society has been bolstered by the advent of tabloids, magazines, celebrity gossip sites, entertainment news channels, social media platforms and the widespread global use of them have bred a relatively new attraction to the lives of just everyday people. People who aren't necessarily famous in a traditional sense, like A-list actors, authors, or supermodels, but cultivate online profiles that simply exude an appealing or aspirational lifestyle, or who have a captivating talent they wish to share. Now, we live in an era where the act of broadcasting your life or your passions is no longer limited to the Hollywood celebrity. If you own a laptop or a smartphone and a stable internet connection, you can basically be your own PR manager. You can now publicly platform your own opinions, share photos of yourself looking your absolute best, chronicle the luxuries of your lifestyle if you're privileged enough, and interact with a sea of strangers who are interested in what you post and vice versa. And with tools to instantly show your support for one's social media content, such as likes, shares, or comments, it essentially gives anyone with proper access to social media a chance at the spotlight. Put out something that's eye-catching enough, and you'll have the opportunity to go viral or even build a following. With enough online popularity, or clout, these people are often termed as influencers, or more specifically YouTubers, streamers, or just general all-around content creators. Some may even be lucky enough to reach the mainstream level of recognition historically exclusive to traditional celebrities. Now, for a lot of users, the act of sharing your life may just be limited to friends, family, and colleagues, but even on the scale, there's a propensity for many to garner online acknowledgement by broadcasting memorable life events or occasions, or simply to share their interests or topical opinions. And this ability to gain attention or clout by broadcasting yourself is all good and well, but it can get addictive. Really addictive, in fact. Akin to animals seeking food rewards, as this news report puts it. According to a 2013 study, scoring likes on social media lights up the same pleasure centers in our brain that are triggered by psychotropic drug addictions. In these cases, likes, comments, shares, or views represent significant gains in our reputation, which functions as a reward stimulus, giving our brain that sweet boost in dopamine. In short, the social media realm is basically the human equivalent of the Skinner box. Substitute the lever for a post button and the food for a fat stack of likes. And I don't think there's anything truly wrong with this on its own, nothing bad about wanting a bit of affirmation now and again. But through excessive social media posting, our brain will eventually adapt to this dopamine response. So over time, this can push us to seek even more likes, comments, shares, views, what have you, to get that fix of online validation. But an obsession with likes is just one, though a primary outcome of intense social media use. Since these metrics represent one's gains in reputation, it can also lead one to constantly compare themselves to their peers. Some people may even link their worth or creative value to that of their numbers. The lower they are, the lower they feel about themselves and their talents. When we all know that numbers, as easier as this is to say than actually internalize, don't represent the true quality of one's content. And then of course, there's the draw of money. Social media is now no longer just a mere tool for staying in touch with loved ones or your favorite celebrities. It can now be a fully fledged career if you want it to be. Also known as full-time Instagrammers, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, or simply once again everyone's favorite term, influencers, people can now get paid, many in the thousands, for having an active and engaging online presence. Whether it's by sponsorships from brands, from follower donations on platforms like Patreon, or through ad revenue from sites like YouTube. That sweet cash is therefore now a factor in perpetuating this increasing addiction to online recognition and social media engagement. Because many are now led to believe that likes and views are not only a quick source of validation, a boost in your reputation or your social status, it can also be an effective way of making an income. Rake in online fame and the cash? I mean, why not? And as I mentioned before, this technology and newfound industry is amazing for people who are trying to make their break in the entertainment, art, or online content field. There are so many out there who absolutely deserve the slew of likes, followers, and revenue they get every time they share their work online. And there are a lot of fantastic creators and artists I probably would have never known of if not for social media and its algorithms. But we would be naive to think that these addictive incentives fall exclusively in the hands of people whose talents bring a positive impact to the online realm. It also easily sets the stage for people who want fame for the sake of it, and you'll have those who will do absolutely anything for the taste of the limelight. The term microcelebrity, as used by many social media researchers, refers to when one carefully cultivates a following online with the goal of achieving fame or a celebrity status. Microcelebrities, unlike traditional celebrities, are able to foster more authentic, real personas and parasocial relationships with their fans. I'd say this is one of the most appealing things about e-celebs or online influencers, since they've made their name off platforms literally focused on building social connections. There's this false sense that they're more like a friend than a famous person. At the same time, as celebrities primarily on social media, they also feel more accessible. Over time, if they're lucky and dedicated, these micro-celebrities may expand beyond their niche audiences and even grow a fan base akin to that of mainstream entertainment stars. And again, while social media platforms have made these practices all the more possible, they existed and were also commercialized way before them. The origins of the micro-celebrity can actually be traced back to the rise of reality TV in the 1990s. The eventual popularity of international hit shows like Big Brother, MasterChef, Survivor, and American Idol had the main goal of turning your everyday, ordinary citizen into primetime stars. Other reality-type entertainment like confessional talk shows, game shows, docu-soaps also depended on ordinary people wanting fame or their time in the spotlight. Sociology professor Chris Rojek coined the term cellutoid to describe the ordinary person whose primary goal is media visibility or fame, no matter how fleeting or fragile. One thing they share with online micro-celebrities is that they also flaunt an image of authenticity, crafted through this narrative of, oh, they're just like you, just an everyday person, albeit with growing clout and a potential future in stardom. The media they feature in also carefully presents its events with a sense of factuality, simulating an almost voyeuristic viewing experience, like you're peering in on the everyday lives of these people. Definitely not unlike the online fame or popularity eventually developed on social media, where Instagrammers, YouTubers, or even just the everyday people in your network chronicle their regular activities online for everyone to see, follow, and even invest themselves in. Now, like a lot of those looking to make their name on social media, obviously not everyone from reality TV sported the same wannabe famous negative connotations of being a cellutoid, but like a lot of infamous people online, to say the least, there were many reality stars that often banked on their notoriety. Just look at names like Paris Hilton, the Kardashians, and everyone's favorite couple, as dated as this reference is, Spidey, all of whom had their publicity stunts and infamy to help sustain their long-lasting careers in entertainment and business. You could argue that a lot of these people are more famous for being famous rather than a specific talent or skill. They've made their name in mainstream media primarily for their personality, their lavish lifestyles, or dramas they'd get involved in. They basically walked so a lot of similarly notorious online influencers could run. But a big difference between reality TV stars and the famous social media influencers we know today is that these platforms have particularly lit a fire under our current attention economy, otherwise known as the limited amount of attention we have to spare in an era where we're constantly barraged with endless and ever-growing information. Unlike reality TV, where you tune into an episode and give your undivided attention to these aspiring stars, those who seek fame on social media have to fight harder to get your attention. Most social media feeds only offer a quick glimpse of what a user has to offer amidst the wealth of other content they have displayed on their site. Think Instagram's Explore feed or YouTube's homepage. You're literally only given nanoseconds to decide whether this creator is worth more of your time. This therefore pushes a lot of them to do whatever they can to grab and maintain your attention. Now, of course, this can be done in plenty of organic ways. Have more creative, eye-catching thumbnails, be more witty, actually put effort and passion into your content. But if fame and clout trumps all other current priorities, there are a few shortcuts many are willing to take. Not that I'm for any of these, Celebrities, just clarifying. There is, of course, the classic, clickbaiting your audiences into thinking you've done something super cool or outrageous when really your video is only ever partially or vaguely related to the topic. Works wonders, apparently. And as much as we hate the fact, apparently the numbers you flaunt online does have an influence on how positively most people view or engage with your content. It's a shallow subconscious tendency, but in a 2016 social experiment by the UCLA, participants were proven to more likely pay attention to and like online photos with a higher number of displayed likes or engagement. The people involved were aged 13 to 18 though, so I'm not sure if age has a major impact on this, but regardless, in an effort to draw user attention, some aspiring influencers will resort to faking their fame. They will buy likes, they will buy followers, they'll basically buy the reputation of an influencer online, and hopefully this will attract even more followers and even potential business partnerships. Of course, having entirely fake engagement, they likely wouldn't have anything to show for brand collaborations. Fortunately, a lot of social media platforms these days have caught on to this shady practice and have taken efforts to ban or remove bot accounts. Users who are caught faking their numbers are also subject to having their social media experience limited, shadow banned, or even removed altogether. But bot services are getting more sophisticated, helping influencers find their way around this. And then there's also faking a lavish or glamorous lifestyle, helping one build a more alluring and attractive, albeit artificial, persona for potential audiences. For all its flaws, and there are many, the 2021 HBO documentary Fake Famous did what I thought was a pretty good job of taking you behind the scenes of this apparently very common practice in the influencer world. Nick Bilton, the writer-director, basically rounds up these random people who already have tiny followings online, so micro-celebrities, and basically works to turn them into big-time, famous influencers. And he pulls out all the stops to build them their online reputation, including buying thousands of likes and followers and faking a supposed lifestyle of the rich and famous. A photo shoot that supposedly shows his influencers on a luxurious international flight, by a poolside in the Four Seasons, and getting a 5-star spa treatment are actually just perfectly crafted deceptions. The airplane window is actually a toilet seat, the poolside is just Bilton's backyard, and the spa is actually just a plastic kiddie pool. Of course, this is a little more over the top for the sake of their experiment, but faking luxuries do happen among influencers in real life. There was Johanna Olsen's badly photoshopped Paris trip, Chinese influencer Lisa Lee was called out by her landlord for having a pigsty of an apartment, all the while flaunting an incredibly glamorous image online. And let's not forget, of course, the lavish Instagram travel couple who begged the internet to fund their travels, eventually admitting that they weren't actually the wealthy people they made themselves out to be, but that the husband's mom had been paying for their vacations. A woman who he admitted didn't have much, was working 2 jobs, and yet getting a job themselves was not an option. Nice one, guys. The doc also shows a popular fake private jet set in LA that musicians would rent out for music videos, or for influencers if they wanted to LARP as billionaires. What's more is the apparently rising popularity of apps and websites dedicated to photoshopping fake vacation photos for social media. And okay, a lot of this is cringe, at the very least, and awfully scammy at most, especially to brands who are seeking out actual influencers for their marketing campaigns. I mean, one of the girls in Fake Famous literally scored endless packages of free shit while flaunting fake followers in the thousands. But the shamelessness doesn't end there. Bringing it back to the cursed antics of reality TV, where aspiring stars will seem to do anything and everything for their time in the limelight, social media and its fame, or influencer culture, is also, sadly, not without its headassery. When you've got to fight for scarce viewer attention on platforms already saturated with thousands of other content, one of the easiest, if not questionable ways to do this is through controversy. Outrageous posts, opinions, ideas are very effective in causing reactions and thus drawing in the views, signaling algorithms to spread this content for even more eyes to see. And cue some of the internet's finest.
Is this what you want, What? Is this what you want? Is that what you want? You want me to be covered in soda?
We're gonna be running around in front of people and making it seem like we just got done robbing a bank.
Now 23-year-old twins are facing criminal charges.
I have one question for you.
Yeah?
What are those?
These people are turning Los Angeles into a COVID hotspot.
We don't care. Sorry.
You're irrelevant.
One light equals one prayer for election.
Onion Boy, Jake Paul, J Station, iDubbbz is bitch. Just a few people who've made a huge name for themselves online, though probably not in the most likable or respectable ways. Unless, hey, you know, scamming people, allegedly grooming minors, and faking your girlfriend's death does it for you. If you're literally willing to sell your ethics for a taste of fame, these guys can show you how it's done. And let me tell you, it works. Each one of these people I've listed have followers in the millions, or pad. Despite scandal after scandal and call out after controversy, these personalities have built a star-studded online career off of audience outrage, and they are making bank. And honestly, I assume those over the age of 15 see this stuff and just view them as lame attempts at social media attention. But why do we end up watching it anyway? Even those who are definitely not the target demographic for this type of content, those extremely critical of clout culture end up contributing to their views. Whether it's to drop a dislike, a snarky comment, or to give their thoughts on it through a commentary video, which is actually an entire genre on its own. I mean, I'm on to talk, I'm doing one right now. Ended up fucking my algorithm in the process. So what is it that draws us to the shitty content anyway, despite the fact that we know they're bad or bound to make us upset? Why can't we just ignore them? Well, you know, there's firstly, and I guess most obviously, that morbid curiosity. It's the same way cringe content works to drive in the views. Watching an awful prank, an awful stunt, or just people being awful has the same effect as watching a train wreck before your eyes. There's this vicarious but also contemptuous secondhand embarrassment for the person or people you're watching, which will make you upset, yes, but can also grant you this comfort in knowing you're not being this terrible, obnoxious nuisance of a person. At the same time, like cringe content, it's also a reminder of how not to act and what not to be. It's why getting angry or outraged at news or content online can, at the same time, feel subconsciously good. It offers this perverse gratification of viewing something that boosts your sense of righteousness or even personal dignity. When I say creators like Onision or the Paul brothers are literally banking on outrage, this is why. And then there's also what psychologists call our negativity bias, or our subconscious tendency to register negative stimuli more readily, as well as fixate more on these experiences rather than positive ones. And this is because as humans, we've evolved to react more quickly to the bad stuff. Since back during our Unga Bunga caveman days, it was a matter of life or death. And this of course sounds incredibly dramatic in the context of just viewing things on the internet, but this defense mechanism still somewhat applies. Our evolutionary tendency to pay attention and react to the negative causes the more outrageous, controversial content to jump out at us as we scroll through our social media feeds. Pair this with our morbid attraction to irksome content, and you'll likely find yourself clicking on that infuriating thumbnail, tweet, or Instagram post, despite knowing you're just gonna end up feeling worse or angry in doing so. And that essentially is how we reward notoriety on the internet. I wouldn't say these people are necessarily after positive clout or attention, but just any and all kinds of publicity. To them, it seems that influence and infamy are one and the same. And side note, even among content creators who don't necessarily rely on outrageous or controversial type content, incorporating this negative emotional response in your marketing can work wonders. It's why you'll often see thumbnails or titles on YouTube that tend to highlight something negative or shocking in the video. It's not exactly clickbait, as it's true to the content of the video, but placing the negative stuff at the forefront works in drawing you in. And of course, we also can't forget that a lot of these notorious online personalities reap a lot of their views and attention from children or generally young audiences. Young viewers who are probably still in their edgy phase and think this stuff is just epic trolling, or successful stars living their best lives, having lifestyles they aspire to. Or, you know, if they're really young, they may genuinely find this stuff entertaining or funny, or maybe even think they're real. With kids forming a huge chunk of YouTube's demographics, I can see why catering to them would be good business. As such, all this incentivizes a lot of online creators to create this type of content. As obnoxious or upsetting as much of it may be, it not only leads to views, it also leads to money. And with this thirst for online fame and profits, paired with an increasingly rising bar for controversial content and social media stunts, since the internet has done a fine job of desensitizing us to a lot of bad things, comes the very problematic do it for the Vine mentality, or I guess now it's TikTok or Instagram. You know the kind where one will literally risk their safety or that of others or forget all sense of public decency for that lick of online clout. Like, holy shit, you should never have to choose between Instagram likes and your life, but welcome to our tragic new reality. Likes, views, and money can start to become this be-all, end-all goal for those who solely rely on their social media presence and infamy as a career path. It can be really easy to get consumed by the numbers and the constant need to keep them afloat, this constant fight for online relevancy. What's more is that much of these platforms are specifically built to encourage this type of mentality, this continuous desire for online recognition. You get rewarded for keeping your numbers up, but are kind of made to feel a bit guilty for slow or inadequate growth. Posts, images, and videos with the most engagement are typically pushed to the top of one's social media feeds, and in some cases even recommended across the platform. This is where the whole blessed by the algorithm sentiment comes in, when one's content gains enough traction to trend across the site. With instant access to your engagement analytics on platforms like YouTube and Instagram, you're given tools that encourage you to advance your online presence and engagement. These detailed stats not only show you the amount of interactions you're getting, but also tell you the best time to post for views, the type of content your audiences love best. A lot of helpful stuff that, while valuable from a business perspective if you're a content creator, also feeds into that drive to gain more likes, more shares, more views. And though I guess this is more of a subtle psychological tactic, the way this data is laid out visually also works to encourage you to keep your numbers up. Usually when you're doing well, you're rewarded with plus signs and check marks, green arrows pointing upward, all symbolizing positive traction, that you're headed uphill in terms of your online reputation. YouTube in particular even celebrates when you've broken personal records with literal animations of confetti and messages congratulating you on your recent successes. Contrast this to when you're not doing so hot and your analytics feed will typically display a whole lot of down arrows, negative numbers, alarming red font, and depressing visual graphs. Again, all these are extremely helpful in a business sense, and also seem harmless or trivial on the outset, but if you're active online, this subtle imagery is made to subconsciously award you for your social media wins while rubbing your L's in your face, reinforcing this need to constantly boost and maintain your online engagement. Just to throw back to how social media addictions have been likened to the same effect that drug addictions have on our brains, seeing and feeling these great highs in our numbers, followed by depressing lows, can definitely enhance that effect. Let's also not forget how this is linked to the addictive draw of social media validation, and the impact that these stats can have on self-worth or image, as arbitrary as they are at the end of the day. With addiction in general, one can find themselves at risk for compulsive acts or behavior if their cravings meet a trigger associated with the potential reward thereafter. In the context of chasing clout, one's cravings for more likes, views, and followers can often be triggered by an opportunity to impress, shock, or outrage an audience. And so, unfortunately, there are cases where morals, ethics, and even just general common sense completely fly out the window for some creators. Anything for the views, am I right? Pretending my girlfriend died in a car crash, literally setting up a fake grave, all in an attempt to round up pity subs to my new side channel.
She's gone too soon. It was her dream to get 1 million subscribers, so out of respect for her, because I know that's what she would want, I'm gonna post those videos there. Link's gonna be in the description, guys.
Flawless. What could go wrong? Being an obnoxious public nuisance in a foreign country and filming a dead body as part of some epic vlog series. Hate to remind you guys of this one, but what the f***? And to this day, I'm still horrified by the stunt that left a young man dead because his girlfriend shot him with a Desert Eagle. The aspiring YouTube couple thought it'd make for an epic video if the man caught the bullet with a book held to his chest. You can probably guess the tragic outcome of that. It was chilling how they were even celebrating the idea on social media before the incident happened, excited that this was the video to catapult them to online fame. In 2018, one creator's inability to grow on YouTube motivated them to show up at the platform's Warehouse headquarters, shooting and wounding 3 employees before tragically killing themselves. Of course, it's important to note that these are extreme cases and are definitely not representative of everyone looking to make their big break on social media. But it also goes to show how far this lust for views and online fame can drive people. It also doesn't help that when you're among other people willing to do stupid shit for online clout, this type of behavior can possibly become normal to you, you know? Monkey see, monkey do. And you may internalize the belief that to gain success, to build your reputation, to skyrocket those stats, this is just what you gotta do. And specifically on the topic of influencers notoriously known for flexing their opulent, aspirational lifestyle while also flaunting controversial or obnoxious antics online, once again, a lot of these figures have audiences primarily made up of kids in the millions, who likely look up to their glamorous lives and thinking that doing the same stunts they are, or donning the same obnoxious persona is what you need to be just as successful or recognized online. Judging from the hilarious hate comments left by rabid young fans on various commentary channels calling out these controversial creators, their audience seems pretty adamant in defending their actions, however awful. And I don't mean to whip out the whole think of the children cliche. I'm not a fan of unsubstantiated moral panics, as you know. But with social media influencer and YouTuber now among the top professions a lot of kids today aspire to, especially given its accessibility, I can't help but feel bewildered that these are among their most popular role models to aspire to. I mean, I'm not just experiencing early onset boomerism here, right? I really feel like we can do a lot better than glorified public nuisances or ignorant tourist vloggers or just having excessive wealth constantly bragged about and flexed in our faces. It gets even more problematic when you realize how a lot of this glamour is often staged or fabricated. I've mentioned how fake famous exposes how easily you can do this, but to list off a few more specific real-life cases, we've got when French model Oceane Elheimer was caught faking being on a first-class flight to her nearly 900,000 Instagram followers. There were those multiple Photoshop travel photos on Amelia Liana's Instagram. 21-year-old Elijah Oyefeso became an online idol to ambitious teens by living the life of a self-made millionaire through his success in stock trading. Turns out he was no Jordan Belfort. He actually made his living through an international pyramid scheme where he was able to scam plenty of aspiring young victims online out of their money. Lil Tay shot to fame on social media as one of the youngest icons of flex culture, constantly bragging about her Mercedes and her penthouse to her quote, broke-ass haters, when in reality her mom was a real estate agent with access to the property and the fancy car belonged to her boss. The mother lost her job because of the whole stunt, by the way. I do want to note though that people should be pointing blame at the adults that encouraged her, an 11-year-old, to do this, as it turns out that she was actually pushed and coached by her brother to go through all of this.
Yo, Lil Tay gon' f*** your mama and I'ma smack your auntie. Cause your mama a thought and your auntie ugly as f***.
I gon' f*** your mama and I'ma still smack your auntie cause your mama a thought and your auntie ugly as f***. Stop! I was filming! A lot of it, I mean, I'm sure not all of it, but a lot, is just smoke and mirrors, and I only just touched on lifestyle. There's also been plenty of critical discourse surrounding how influencers fabricate their own personal appearance, whether it's through filters, Photoshop, and other means of excessive photo editing. With social media perpetuating this habit of comparing yourself to everyone else, you'll get a lot of users on Instagram who feel bad that they don't look like these glamorous and stunning influencers, wishing they were as beautiful when they're not even real. Similarly, you'll also have users negatively comparing their lives to the supposedly enviable, luxurious lifestyles of those they follow online, when they may not even be all that real too. It's really not surprising at all, to me at least, that addiction to social media has been linked to greater levels of stress, anxiety, depression, FOMO, and just generally lower well-being. It's not unlike the negative effects on self-image and self-esteem that traditional celebrity culture can have on audiences, but with social media platforms giving us an instant and constant barrage of photos, videos, and content highlighting other people's lives or activities, these effects are all the more amplified. And this isn't just exclusive to impressionable kids or young teens. It can affect anyone who are on these apps religiously, regardless of age. But real quick, I also do want to mention the type of clout chasers who fake being activists for social causes or movements out of their own selfish craving for social media attention. Plenty of these came to light, and rightfully so, particularly during the Black Lives Matter protests of last year. The good news is there
also plenty of influential personalities breaking down the facades of clout culture or criticizing its damaging behaviors, so perhaps there is some check and balance. But troubling influencers are still very much successful regardless, whether it's from devoted kids who see them as inspirational or from the terminally mad online. And as long as social media offers free and accessible tools for those desperate for fame and virality, I doubt we'll run out of the wannabe Jake Pauls or J Stations or attention-seeking reactionaries anytime soon. Fortunately, social media platforms, at least the biggest ones like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, have stepped in to regulate harmful content or misinformation on their sites to some extent by tightening up community guidelines and penalizing creators who continue to publish harmful or dangerous material. In some cases, continued offense can get you banned off the platform altogether. And while of course there are plenty of positives to this in that we get less hate speech, harassment, and fake news running rampant on these sites, it has prompted understandable skepticism and criticism. Particularly, how do they draw the line between objectively harmful and subjectively offensive content? And who gets to decide this? There have also been concerns about privacy and whether greater oversight on these platforms can breach one's private information or interactions on these sites. There's also the risk that stricter regulation poses in accidentally taking down legitimate content. I mean, YouTube is no stranger to that. And similarly, just walking that fine line between protecting your platform and just censoring free expression. There have also been cases of inconsistent policy enforcement on certain popular sites, so things haven't been perfect on the regulation end of things, and it's a certainly more complex topic than I have the tools, knowledge, and time in this video to really dissect, especially with an entire political element to this that's a whole beast on its own. So not to stray too far from the main topic, there is at the very least some solace in knowing that with the tighter policies enforced on these platforms today, extremist or criminal content have less of a chance in finding mainstream online success, at least for as long as these corpos deem it unprofitable. Brands have also been more wary about including morality or break clauses in their influencer contracts, ensuring that they're able to end partnerships and thus protect their company image if the influencer they've hired turns out to be a terrible person. Or at least, you know, unprofitable. Those two things aren't always the same. And now we've also got the tools, in fact, an entire cottage industry, as the New York Intelligencer puts it, that analyze influencer accounts for fake or bot followers, meaning less Instagrammers able to scam brands out of thousands of sponsorship dollars, which is nice. I guess it's only a matter of time before bot services eventually circumvent these tools, but I'm also sure that these anti-bot services in time will get better at their detection. Companies like Kellogg's are also battling influencer fraud by focusing less on vanity metrics like reach or engagement numbers and more on personalities who actually use and believe in their product. Unilever has apparently pledged to not work with influencers who buy their followings and have called for other brands to stay as vigilant. But it works both ways too. Be wary of sketchy companies that try to approach you on social media and have you be some ambassador for their online brand. This happens quite a lot on Instagram, where profiles with tens of thousands of followers, yet a suspiciously low engagement rate, if at all, try to butter you up with promises of that sweet social media clout. Typically, these guys won't offer you any sort of payment or even free product, but they will have you buy from their online store, so you give them money, after which they'll ask you to market their goods on your profile. In return, they promise to share whatever photo you post on their feed so that you can gain exposure from their thousands of fake followers. Pure clownery. So yeah, watch out, do your research. If a deal seems shady, I mean, it's the internet, so it's probably even worse than it seems. And of course, as typical as this is to say, just maintaining a mindful or critical view of the stuff we consume online can work wonders for our well-being. I feel like when you're swept up by all the glitz, hype, and shenanigans on social media, it's one that's easier said than done. Just remember that everything you see online is faked to some degree, even just the posts of everyday people in your lives. I wish I could look like this every day, but I am wearing a ton of makeup, including contacts. The lighting is pretty good, and I know my best angles. Your friends and favorite influencers may constantly look like they're living a picture-perfect life, with feeds constantly showcasing their exciting night outs, their amazing career, their fairy tale relationship. But again, these profiles are carefully curated to showcase their finest moments and memories. I'm sure people who do this are living happy and fulfilled lives in their own way, but they're essentially giving you a mere highlights reel, not the full, messy, chaotic picture. Because in reality, no one's life is as endlessly positive or exciting or idyllic. But if they carefully curate a feed showing only their proudest moments and accomplishments, then theirs could very well look like the case. It is worth noting though how Instagram now gives you the option to hide other people's like counts, reportedly in an attempt to reduce social pressures on the platform while helping users feel more comfortable in expressing themselves, which, you know, is cool, though I can't help but feel like there was probably less of an altruistic mental health related motive there and more likely just an attempt to keep people scrolling rather than taking breaks from the app, but you know, that's just a cynic in me talking. And then of course there's just general bad behavior we can never be too critical about. There is no shortage of abusive, destructive, scammy, and just overall douchey antics online by incredibly popular internet figures, which, like I said, is often deservedly called out by other creators and just general audiences who aren't part of their brainwashed crew of children or overgrown children. And while of course scamming your audience and hurting innocent people is indefensible and you deserve all the backlash you get for that, I do have my criticisms regarding the broader phenomena of cancel culture and how it can sometimes encourage this unchecked mob mentality, but that's for another video. And also ContraPoints and Lindsay Ellis already do a pretty good job of dissecting that. Just to clarify though, as I do with all my essays/rants, I am of course definitely not against social media in general. I owe a lot to this incredibly life-changing, if not cursed, technology. And I do think its ability to spotlight the ideas and ventures of ordinary citizens has overwhelmingly greater benefits than pitfalls. A major one getting rid of industry gatekeepers, so rising creative talents have at least more of an equal shot at breaking into their industry, giving rise to political movements and being channels for social change, bringing you new connections with literally the tap of a button. Really, for the most part, social media is pretty amazing, and I can't imagine a world without it. But one with fewer rice gums and sand peppers and clout-chasing TikTokers is a nice thought. Anyway, that about does it for this video. As always, I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the new influencer or fame culture that social media has developed over the years. Can you relate to having unhealthy relationships with your social media apps, especially if you're a content creator, and what are your ways of dealing with that? I definitely struggle with obsessing over my analytics from time to time, so I'm curious to hear your tips. And of course, if you enjoy these kinds of commentary/video essays on pop or internet culture, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up to date on my latest uploads, and I'll see you guys in the next one.